Hi, my name is Lucy Billing and I'm a food and health teacher at Strathmore Secondary College. In this presentation, you're going to learn about sustainable farming practices related to land use. Let's look at the outcome this links to. So it's Unit 4, Outcome 2, and the key skill is going to ask you to be able to analyse environmental issues in food production, including the effect of the use of land, and the reasons for the adoption of more sustainable farming practices. There's a worksheet that goes along with this presentation, which your teacher should provide you. The green pencil that you see here is a symbol that you're going to see and know that you need to take some notes or answer a question in your workbook. So let's start by looking at land degradation. Australia is one of the oldest continents and has some of the oldest soils, and these are very nutrient poor and quite shallow. Land degradation is about the deterioration of the quality of land, its topsoil, vegetation, and or water resources, caused usually by excessive or inappropriate use. The two causes we're going to have a look at today are erosion and poor soil health. And poor soil health will link to nutrient loss and also soil acidification. So please pause the presentation to put those on your worksheet. Let's look at soil erosion now. So soil erosion occurs when the top layer of soil, which is high in nutrients, is worn away due to factors such as water, wind and farming. Often erosion creates large gullies, which you can see in the picture here, which obviously makes it difficult to grow crops and plants. Please pause to put this definition on your worksheet. Also, we want to look at the causes of soil erosion. So how is it caused? First of all, we're going to look at extreme weather conditions. So extreme weather conditions such as drought can cause erosion, as you can see here, this picture here, but also poor land management. So plants hold soil in place, and when those plants are removed, so land might be cleared to grow food crops, the wind and water can erode or remove the topsoil, which has nutrients needed for healthy plant growth. Now, why is this a concern? Well, without those nutrients that are lost, you're going to affect the productivity of the land and reduce the yields. You're also going to pollute the waterways or possible pollution of waterways because that topsoil is then being washed or blown away and it can contaminate the waterways. That soil might have fertilizers and pesticides, which obviously can be a concern. So how are we going to address some of these issues? Now, soil erosion is difficult to overcome and it can take decades. However, there's lots of things that farmers are doing to help minimise soil erosion. So first of all, we're going to look at no-till farming. Now, no-till farming is when farmers will minimise the amount of tillage of the land. Now, tillage is the preparation of soil by mechanical movement or agitation. So the soil is not actually dug up as much and exposed to water and wind. In this image here, you can see the tractor with its machine here. This is called direct drilling of seeds, and this is used to plant next year's crop. So the topsoil has not been disturbed, and it then avoids exposing it to wind erosion. Following on from this, we're going to look at the next picture. And this is stubble, which you can see from last year's crop. And what farmers will do is they'll leave the stubble here. And this stubble will help to, or the roots of the stubble will help to hold the soil in place and prevent wind erosion. It also has an effect on the soil health as well, which we'll look at a little bit later on in more detail. But the nutrients that are contained in that stubble will then break down into and be returned back to the soil. It also helped to retain some moisture in the ground, and that's really important, especially as Australia is such a dry country. So contour farming is another strategy which farmers will undertake, and that's about planting crops across the contours of the land. And you can see this in the diagram or the pictures on your screen. And so instead of planting crops up and down in rows, they'll actually plant them in contours, and this will help prevent water washing away that topsoil. So also another way to prevent wind erosion is planting windbreaks. And you can see in the picture here what the farmers have done is they've planted a row of trees surrounding their crops. And what those trees will do, as you can see in the diagram, is those strong winds will be broken by the trees and will reduce the strength of the wind, and that will help prevent wind erosion. It also helped to stabilise the hillsides and waterways with the soil. So this is a summary of soil erosion, which we've just gone through. So the problem with erosion, and this can be caused by wind or water, it actually decreases the productivity of the land by removing that nutrient-rich topsoil. So some of the solutions which farmers will undertake are direct drilling and also the retention of crop stubble, and this will help minimise the loss of topsoil. They'll also carry out contour farming, which is planting crops across the contours of the land rather than the traditional up and down, and that will prevent water washing away the topsoil. Planting windbreaks is another way to reduce wind erosion and will help stabilise hillsides and waterways. So please pause the presentation now and you can jot those on your worksheet. So now we're going to look at the other part of land degradation, and that's to do with poor soil health. The health of soil is affected by both soil acidification and low nutrient levels. So let's look at the glossary term for soil acidification. This occurs when plants take up nutrients and they then release acidic waste from their roots. Once the soil becomes too acidic, crops and pastures don't grow very well. Also, the increased use of fertilisers and water can also increase the rate of soil acidification, as you can see in this diagram here. So pause the presentation and write this definition on your worksheet. We're also going to look at low nutrient levels. Now, the cause of low nutrient levels in the soil is usually due to poor farming practices, such as overcropping and overgrazing. The effect of low nutrient levels in the soil is a decreased yield and will therefore have less profit for primary producers. You can see in this picture here, you've got the plants obviously here have adequate nutrients, and these ones here were grown in soil with low nutrient levels, and that's obviously going to affect the growth of them. So how do we go about improving the soil health? You can see by this map here, you've got a map of Australia, and here it's showing you the soil acidification of the soil. And you can see in the areas where it's that kind of brown-orange colour, this is where it's poor soil acidification. So it's actually got high levels of acidity. And this is a concern because this is a lot of the area here we use to grow a lot of crops, our fruits and vegetables. And so we need to look at strategies to address this. So firstly, with soil acidification, regular pH testing on soil can be a great way to understand the health of your soil and determine the levels of acid present. And farmers can do this in 3 different ways. There are 3 methods, as you can see on your screen. There's a handheld meter. There's also a colour test, which this lady here is using to understand the pH level of the soil, and also a test probe, which you can use. Now, once you've understood the acidity or the pH, of your soil, you might need to add some lime to your fields or your paddocks or your crops, and that will help to lower the pH and counteract those high acid levels. So you can see in the picture here, the truck is applying the lime to the field. Now we're going to go back and look at something we talked about at the beginning, and this is to do with looking at nutrients in the soil. So the use of no-till farming, retaining crop stubble, and the direct drilling of seeds can help keep those nutrients contained in the soil, because that stubble will break down. It will then return those nutrients back to the soil. Another way to help maintain the soil nutrition is to look at using a crop rotation system. Now, this system includes using a legume crop that will fix nitrogen in the soil and also help to support the cereal crops such as wheat. So it's where the farmer will rotate what's grown on the land each year, and it will help to build the nutrients levels of the soil. And it will also help to reduce weeds and pest problems. And of course, this is beneficial because it will help reduce the need for artificial chemicals and fertilizers. So crop rotation is a great way to avoid exhausting the nutrients in the soil. And this is a diagram from your textbook, which you can have a look to get a little bit further information. And you can see that in different years, they're planting different crops. So for 2011, they've had a wheat crop. 2012, they're going to plant some lentils. And lentils are a legume crop, and as I said, that will help to fix the nitrogen in the soil and retain some nutrients. In 2013, they grew clovers and they had pasture for animals such as cattle. And then in 2014, they were growing canola, and they would then repeat that cycle again. So now here's a summary of poor soil health. So the problem of poor soil health is to do with soil acidification and also low nutrient content, and this will affect the health and the yield of the crops. So some of the solutions that the farmers will undertake are looking at regular pH testing on the soil, and that will help to understand the health of the soil and determine the levels of acid present. The use of no-till farming, which is about retaining crop stubble and direct drilling of seeds, will help to return those nutrients back to the soil. Adding lime to paddocks will help counteract the acidity that you get with soil acidification. And also crop rotation systems will help maintain the nutrients in the soil by using a legume crop, and also help to rotate the crops to make sure that you're not exhausting the nutrients in that soil. So please pause the presentation and pop these on your worksheet. So lastly, we want to check that you actually understand what we've spoken about today, and a great way of doing this is to answer a couple of questions. So there's 2 questions I'm going to get you to answer. First of all, I just want to talk through about how to approach these. So you want to approach these as you would an exam question. It's a good idea to read the question twice and underline the action word and any key terms that are in that link to the study design. And always check the mark allocation to know how much detail you'll need to give. So firstly, this first question is about crop rotation, which we've just spoken about. So you might want to go back in the video and just review. It asks you to use a diagram to explain crop rotation, and that's for 2 marks. So when you're ready, you can pause the presentation, you can answer that question. The second question is about land degradation in general. So it's a good little summary or review question. Land degradation can have a major impact on sustainable food production. Describe how land degradation can occur, and I'll outline 2 strategies to overcome this problem. And this is worth 4 marks. So you can now pause this presentation to answer the question. Remember, you can always go back and review the information, or you can go and have a look at chapter 11 of your textbook, which will give you some more information, more detailed information. If you have any questions, please ask your teacher. I hope this presentation has been useful. Thanks.